everyone, and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care podcast and video. I'm Dwayne, and I'm a certified RV inspector, and today we're going to be talking about Class C motorhomes versus travel trailers, the pros and cons of going either way. And you may be wondering, why in the world do you want to compare a Class C motorhome with a travel trailer since they're so different? One is a motorhome, one is a towable. Well, that's all true. However, they also have some very important things in common. For instance, each one of these types of RVs are considered the affordable choice in their segment of the RV industry. They're also both often used for weekend trips, for vacations, and they're often used by families. So it's very common to see people wondering, should I go with a motorhome or should I go with a travel trailer? Well, we're going to compare the pros and cons of going either way. And let's start with the Class C pros or advantages. And by the way, we're not going to be talking about Super Cs or B plus RVs that some people think are Class Cs. No, it's just normal, regular Class Cs here. And the number one pro for a Class C is that the whole RV is in one package. You don't have to match up a tow vehicle with a towable. It's all done for you. All the weights are figured out. All you've got to do is just turn that key and drive away. That is very simple and very easy, and for many, it's a big advantage. The next pro is that there's usually more amenities in a Class C RV, and especially you might find them in the bathroom area. Usually bathrooms in the Class C motorhome are going to be upgraded from what you get in a travel trailer. The next pro is there's often more living space and more sleeping space in a Class C. Now, the sleeping part of it is really important because in Class Cs, that's what they specialize in. Many Class Cs will sleep up to 8 to 10 people. So that's pretty impressive, and that's an advantage. The next advantage is there's often more storage space with a Class C motorhome than a travel trailer. In a travel trailer, you usually only find a storage compartment right up front, and it's often not very big. However, in a Class C motorhome, it usually has storage compartments that go all the way down on both sides. So that's a pretty impressive advantage there. The next advantage to a Class C is that when you're driving down the road, you have full access to the kitchen and the bathroom while you're going. That is really great. You don't have to pull over for almost anything, and a lot of people like that. All right, those are the pros of the Class C RV. How about the cons? Well, the number one con is the cost. They're going to cost you more, either new or used, than a travel trailer in most cases. If you're talking about new Class C RVs, they average mainly between $75,000 to $100,000 right now. And of course, that's quite a bit more than you can buy a travel trailer for. The next con is that there's more things to maintain on them because they have the chassis with that engine and transmission and drivetrain and all of that, and you have to maintain that. Now, if you're fair, though, you do have to maintain those things on the tow vehicle for a travel trailer. However, if you're just comparing the Class C motorhome straight to the travel trailer, well, there's a lot more maintenance to do with the Class C motorhome than with just a travel trailer. The next con is that the insurance is going to cost you more for a Class C. That makes sense because the RV itself costs you more. So the insurance likely will be higher. The next con is that if you have mechanical trouble in a Class C RV, well, then you're going to probably have to put it in the shop, and your whole home goes in the shop with it. And that is a consideration for some people. Now, when you have a towable and there's mechanical trouble, well, the tow vehicle goes in, but you still have your RV available. The last con that we're going to mention for Class Cs is that they are big enough and heavy enough that they don't really make a good around town vehicle. I know some people use them that way, and if you have Class Cs that are short enough, it may not be a big problem. But for most people, it's really just not a good vehicle for running around town and doing your errands or taking short day trips in while you're camping. So very often with a Class C, you're going to need to have another vehicle along with you, either tow it or just bring it along with you. Now, that is the pros and the cons of the Class C RV that we want to cover today. The next thing we want to get to is travel trailer pros. Let's start to get into that now. And the number one pro of travel trailers is their cost. Out of all the segments in the RV industry, the travel trailer is the lowest cost on average. So whether it's either new or used, you're probably going to spend less for a travel trailer than you would for a Class C motorhome. And if you're buying new, on average, these days, it's probably going to run somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 for most people. There are travel trailers above that, but most people are going to buy in that range. Now, the next advantage is the maintenance. Again, we have to go back to that because the travel trailer really has very little maintenance that has to be done compared to a motorhome like the Class C. The next pro is that generally speaking, you're going to get better fuel economy with towing a travel trailer than you do with a Class C motorhome. Why? Well, it comes down to weight. The travel trailer is usually much less heavy than the Class C motorhome. So when you're going down the road, that weight difference often contributes to better gas mileage. The next pro is insurance will cost you less because the RV costs less. So that's a pro. And finally, a big advantage for travel trailers is that there are tons of brands and models available to choose from, and you can find almost anything you want out there for floor plans with a travel trailer. That's a big advantage. All right, let's talk about the cons of travel trailers now. The number one con is you've got to find a tow vehicle to match up with that travel trailer, and it has to match up with the weight of that travel trailer. So what you have as a vehicle sometimes will not work with the travel trailer you buy. That means you might actually have to go out and change the vehicle that you own to match the travel trailer. So at any rate, there's more to think about when you're matching up a tow vehicle to a travel trailer. And that, for many, is a con. The next con is that overall, there's lower construction quality in travel trailers. Now, not to the point that it's really unusable, but the quality is a little less because what they're trying to do is build the lightest RV possible and also the cheapest possible to make it affordable and usable by so many families that want to be able to RV. So the quality is a little less, and that leads us to our next con, and that is that the life of the travel trailer will probably be a little shorter than the Class C motorhome. Now, of course, if you maintain it and you care for it, it will last a long time, but the life will still not be quite as long as a Class C. The next con is there's usually more towing stress that goes with a bumper pull RV. When I talk about pulling stress, What I'm talking about is when you attach something to a bumper back there of a tow vehicle, it's easy for it to wag around back there. And if you get a wind going side to side, well, then it can really start to make things feel funny up there in the tow vehicle as you're driving down the road. So for towing a travel trailer, there's more stress involved quite often than just hopping in a Class C where it's all figured out for you and just driving down the road. You don't have any tail wagging going on back there. Now, if you buy certain other accessories like weight distribution hitches and sway bars for towing and that kind of thing, then you can handle and solve a lot of those problems. But still, it's going to be more stress to tow a travel trailer down the highway than just getting in that Class C and driving. The last con is that hooking up and unhooking for many people presents a challenge, especially the hooking up part. A lot of people have a problem with that. Now, of course, over time you get really good at it and you get used to it. But even when you do, it's extra work and extra time when you hook up and unhook a travel trailer, as opposed to just hopping in the Class C and driving off down the road. Okay, those are the pluses and minuses, the pros and the cons of Class C's versus travel trailers. Let me say this: either RV has its place and also is great for certain types of travel and camping. So all you have to do is use the pros and cons we talked about today, compare it with your style of travel and camping, and decide what fits you best. Well, that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.